Welcome to the Scalability Code, the podcast that helps you get out of the shit show and start growing your business. A few times each month, you'll hear stories and commentary from visionary entrepreneurs, EOS implementers, and fractional COOs about how they've taken businesses to level 10. And now for your host, Matt Haney.
All right. Welcome to the Scalability Code. I'm your host, Matt Haney. Today, we've got Harlan Geiser. Harlan is an EOS implementer, an all-around good human, and somebody that I think will benefit from getting some wisdom from. So, Harlan, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
You got it, man. All right. Tell me, where are you from? What's your background? Let's do the whole deal. We got to get to know each other, even though we kind of know each other a little bit already. Give our listeners and viewers a little backstory about yourself.
Sure. Happy to do that. I'm a Central Illinois person. I've been here most of my life. Went to high school here, went to college here, started businesses, ran businesses, started more businesses, ran more businesses for about 40 years here.
You don't look old enough to have done it for 40 years, Harlan.
Well, thank you. That was the right thing to say, but...
Flattery gets you everywhere. So hold on, you got to back up and assume, I know where
Sure.
Central Illinois is, and I have a general understanding of where you're located. But give us some landmarks for those of us that don't know Central Illinois intimately.
So it's Bloomington, Illinois. That's where Illinois State University is, and also
Okay.
Illinois Wesleyan University. But it's about 2 hours south of the Chicago Loop.
Okay.
It's about 2 hours and 20 minutes north and a little bit east of the St. Louis Airport.
Yep.
It's about 2 hours and 15 minutes west of Indianapolis.
Wow. Okay. So you got a lot of airport choices.
It's kind of it's just kind of in the middle of the state and far enough away from all the major cities, really, but not too far. You can get to them. Yeah.
That's awesome. So where do you fly out of? Which airport do you pick? You got a lot of options there.
Yeah. So when I can, I fly out of Bloomington.
Yeah.
Of course, the choices are limited. And then I typically will go to Midway in Chicago.
Yeah. You're a Southwest guy?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm picking up my son who's flying in from Austin on Wednesday, he and his family. And I'm
Does he
picking
live
him
down
up at
here?
O'Hare. He lives in Austin.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's where I live.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
He's
awesome.
just south of the airport, about 20 minutes or so.
In Buda, Kyle, somewhere?
He's actually in the city of Austin.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, okay. So you mentioned you've run businesses in and out of them for 40 years, which I love. Tell us about some of those businesses from a high level, or feel free to get into the weeds. But I always think it's interesting in our careers now, being able to see so many different businesses, and for me, the similarities of so many. So give me some backstory on some of the businesses you've been involved in for the last few decades.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe even before the first business,
Sure.
looking back on it, I didn't realize it at the time, but I was born to do this.
That's awesome.
Okay. It wasn't something I made a decision on. I didn't decide to be an entrepreneur. It just happened. And I actually didn't even know that I was being one at the time. I just,
Well, there wasn't a thing. You owned a business, you
It
ran a
was just-
business, like
yeah,
whatever.
it was just a deal. So so the first one was a buddy of mine called and he said, "Hey, Harlan, there's the business I'm in. There's an opportunity. One of the guys just left. Could lead to ownership opportunity. Are you interested?" And so I said, "Yeah, sure." So boom.
Why not? Well, what business was that?
So I was in the clothing business in
Okay.
the 70s.
In like reselling, like in men's boutiques or men's
Yeah,
clothing stores? Or what?
We had a little men's and women's small specialty shop. Yeah,
That's
nice
great.
clothing. And with the malls and everything and the changes that were going on in the industry, I did love the clothing business, but it looked to me like there was going to be more of an opportunity going forward in technology. So
That's
this
great.
is really before the PCs were on the market.
That's awesome.
Radio Shack had TRS-80 and maybe something else, but there wasn't anything else. There weren't any IBMs or Apples or anything like that much back then. So I decided to do that. So I shifted and ended up in the technology business.
And what did that look like at the time? Were you distributing? Were you doing services? Like what kind of business was that?
Well, there again, I went from retail to retail. I went from retail clothing to retail technology. And once again, it happened because of someone that I knew that just called me and said, "Hey, Harlan, I hear you wanting to get into technology. This may not be the opportunity you want for a long period of time, but at least this will get you in the industry."
Right.
And so I took it, ended up staying there for a while, and opened some locations for them. And
As an operator, or were you part of the ownership group?
no, I was just working there. I was an operator, and ran into financial trouble, which in the 80s and early 90s that was very
a thing.
common.
Yeah, very much so.
And so I ended up buying the assets of one of the locations, which is in Bloomington, which is where I still am.
And what brand was that under when you took it over?
It was an Intercomp franchise.
Okay.
Okay. But when I took it over, I was an independent.
So you didn't have to keep their brand. You didn't have to keep any of their nonsense.
No. I bought the assets. I didn't buy the
you'd have an
company.
existing retail storefront that people associated with electronics.
Well, what
Yes.
I left out was that in that process and having a retail background, I was able to convince the owner that he needed to get out of retail. I said, I don't know how computers are going to be sold for sure, but the businesses that we're selling stuff to, they're not going to come in stores and buy it.
Right.
It's going to be like copiers and typewriters. You're going to be calling on them. We need an outbound sales force. And so that's what we did. We transformed that whole business and even moved out of a retail space into a business location and that sort of thing. And then opened other locations in Central Illinois.
Very cool. And who were your main customers? Were you doing B2B sales?
Well, yeah, of course, in retail, there was, it's hard to believe, but so I was in Decatur, Illinois at that time, and Archer Daniels Midland was there, ADM, they're one of the largest food purveyors in the world. And they would come in the store and buy PCs one at a time.
Very cool. And they were a big business, huge outfit. I wonder what percentage of computers are bought in retail now versus direct to consumer delivered to a doorstep.
Yeah, I have no idea.
I bet it's 80-20, right? 80% of them are direct to consumer. But then
compared to a store, yeah.
But then you think of like big businesses that have, 20 to 50 employees, they're still having stuff shipped to them. They're not going to some retail store to get it. They may have an outsourced IT firm that's helping them implement, but they're not going to any retail. That's interesting. You saw that opportunity and pivoted out of retail and into B2B instead of continuing to chase that retail storefront life.
Yeah, right.
Crazy.
Right. Well, I'd had retail in my background, so it gave me a little different insight. Plus, unlike most everyone else in the industry at that time, I was not a techie.
Yeah, you're a services guy.
I'm an entrepreneur. I really, in a lot of ways, didn't really much care what the product was. I just wanted to be flowing with the current.
It's so funny. I send myself saying that a lot in my business, and over the years, all the clients I've worked with, everyone thinks their business is unique, but like you just said, it's the widget is the widget, whether it's a computer or a service company or a hardware, whatever. There's a lot of commonality. There's the 4 or 5 major pillars or tenets of a business exist no matter what industry you're in.
Right.
All right. So you went from retail electronics to B2B electronics. You were in that through the 90s, and where did that lead you after that?
Well, I stayed with that business till I sold it to employees in 2015.
Wow, that's awesome.
But along the way, I was involved in other things. I started a software company and did some real estate things, had a real estate company. Seems like maybe a few other things in there, somewhere along
the way.
Yeah.
So,
shiny objects, you got to chase all of those, right?
You entrepreneurs, yes. So that led you to EOS in some way, shape, or form. Tell me about your sort of entry into it. How long ago? Who introduced you? Sort of the whole story.
Yeah. So what happened was that when I was running my own business, I used 2 platforms. One was Vern Harnish's Scaling Up, which at that time was Mastering the Rockefeller Habits. The Scaling Up stuff hadn't even come out yet. I just implemented that from the book. He didn't even have coaches or anything you could hire at that time. You just read the book, figured it out the best you could, and actually worked out great. It was wonderful. And then I got involved with Jack Stack and the Great Game of Business, and it turned out it was an open book. We became an open book management company, which was wonderful. And that was a wonderful experience. And when I sold the company in 2015, I thought perhaps I was retiring. I didn't really know, but so I kind of gave retirement a try. And I did pretty well with it for about 10 weeks.
Who was did you push yourself over the edge, or did your loving wife tell you to get the hell out of the house?
Well, we've been married for 53 years, so
Congrats,
I suppose
that's
she
amazing.
could kick me out whenever she wants. But it was really just, I think I needed a break. And I woke up one morning and I said, I can't do this anymore. This is driving me crazy. And the person that I had sold the business to, the main one, employee, said, hey, if you ever want an office or a place to go, just call me. We'll put you in a little office in the back of the building and you can do whatever you want back there, give you a computer. And so I called her up and said, hey, I'm going to take you up on your offer. So I did that. Where I am is a tertiary market. There's 186,000 people in the county that I live in. Now, there's a couple of million people in central Illinois, all of it. So it's not tiny, but people know people, right? So, and I was fairly involved in the community on several boards and things like that, chairman of a couple. So people just started calling me and said, hey, you're not doing anything. We'll pay you to come take a look at our business.
Oh, that's great.
I thought, well, I'm not really sure what I'm going to do, you know.
What a compliment. Someone thought enough of you to have you come, you know, peel back the layers of the onion and look. That's a good compliment.
Yeah, but you know, we're also in a small market, so I mean, there aren't a whole lot of companies out there offering those services, right? And this is, even though it was only 10 years ago, the coaching thing was not as ubiquitous as it is today. It's almost like
it wasn't as
anybody
pronounced,
that's anybody has a coach, right?
Right.
Back then, it wasn't so much. And actually, even back then, very few people even knew about EOS.
Oh, yeah.
It was a pretty well kept secret. It was a tiny company, Gino, and a handful of bandits, you know.
Yep.
That's about all it was.
That's exactly right.
So
and that's kind of, and Gino, if I remember, it started in your kind of up in your neck of the woods, right?
Detroit.
Yeah. So not too far off.
Yeah. And also strong connection with Vern Harnish. Gino was in EO, which was Vern's organization.
Oh, yeah.
And he was one of the founding members of the Detroit chapter.
Yep. That's exactly right. That's fantastic. So that was 10 years ago, and you started and have built it up. And sort of what was how many clients do you work with currently? How many was it at a bigger point? Like, sort of what's your sweet spot?
So unlike the rest of my life, which is I made things happen and I had goals and I had objectives and I wanted all this to happen, in this particular case, I really didn't have a plan.
Yeah.
So after a few months of talking with a few people who had asked me to be involved with them, I thought, boy, this is going to get old for them and maybe even for me. You don't want to, you can only pick Harlan's brain so much.
Right.
I'm going to need some kind of a platform.
Right.
So I thought, well, I'll use Mastering the Rockefeller Habits because it worked for me. Okay. Open book management, I didn't feel like I wanted to go down that path because it's a very niche-y thing. And, only you have to have a real certain mentality to want to do that. And it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
It's awesome, but it's not for everybody.
You're right.
And I didn't think the market was big enough in Central Illinois for that. And I didn't want to travel. So I decided to leave that one alone. But I'm a big fan of and advocate of Jack Stack's organization. It's great. Anyway, so I started the Mastering the Rockefeller Habits and started implementing that in the companies that I had. And boy, I'll tell you what, it was a lot of work.
Because there wasn't a program or a recipe or any
yeah,
guidelines,
that and it's actually built for a larger company. Okay, I
Right.
was interested in working with
Small to mid-sized
entrepreneurial
companies, yeah.
companies, a lot of them under 100 employees,
Sure.
and it's just like kind of buying a Cadillac when you could jump in a Prius and get wherever you want to go,
Right.
And just do fine in a Prius, right?
Well, not to mention, it's just the accessibility, approachability of it. It's not as overwhelming. And I think that's one of my favorite things about using the system is that, you can make it do as much as you need it to, but you can also make it as simple and as unintimidating as possible.
Right.
All right. So you got started, and how many folks are you working with now, or how many have you been with? Like, what's the...
Yeah, I have 16 clients now.
Oh, that's great. And you've had
is-
those over, I mean, I'm sure you've been growing those over time, and at some point, did you realize that was the number that was good for you, or is it organically got there, or?
Yeah, I kind of had to put a cap on it for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, right. The amount of hours in the day and
There are-
sessions every year.
Yeah, there's younger EOS implementers that have 20 or 25 clients, and it's very workable and doable at that size. But for me, with the family obligations and other things that I have, 16 seems to work out pretty well. Once again, though, I didn't necessarily try to build it. It's all been word of mouth, kind of stuff. It's not been.
Well, let's
up
talk
the
about
phone.
so at this point, I've got some questions I want to run through with you that pertain to your wisdom and experience. And I always tell folks it's easiest if you think about some of your recent sessions or recent clients or things as we start to tell some of these stories, because I think it helps frame. And
Sure.
when you tell the story about one of these, it would be helpful if you give some backstory on their industry. I don't need to know revenues. I don't need to know, but just more like, hey, this client was, in this space, that about this many people, and these are some of the things we've saw. Mm-hmm. So some of the challenges that we see in the fractional space when we're a fractional integrator or a fractional COO is the changing of the scorecard. It's always one of the things for me that becomes a little challenging, because I don't want to be the one that's moving the goalposts constantly, but I also don't want to be the one that's not moving them either. So give me some of your opinions, thoughts, or experience on changing a scorecard and sort of how often you see that with clients, and just a little backstory, anybody where you've had positive changes or you've seen something in a scorecard session over session and you kind of get them to that next point.
Right. Okay, so as you indicated, a scorecard is not something you want to just change willy-nilly or whenever you just kind of feel like it. On the other hand, whenever your business changes or something changes that's of any proportion, or maybe you have a new opportunity or whatever, you're going to have to change your accountability chart, and you're going to have to change your scorecard accordingly, because those are tools that are meant to serve you. What people miss about the scorecard, though, is it's really about what is the result that you want, and what are the activities that you should be doing on a weekly basis that are going to deliver that result. So instead of getting really emotional about something that's on the scorecard, you get incredibly practical about, this is where we're going. This is our 1-year plan. This is our 3-year picture. This is our 10-year target. And if we're going to get there, what are the things that we need to be doing this quarter, which are rocks, to get us there? What are the things that we need to be doing this week? What are the activities we need to be doing this week that'll put us where we want to go when we're achieving those results? And so those things do change sometimes, okay?
Yeah.
And the wisest and smartest and best performing companies are the ones that are thinking about that all the time. They are actually pulling their scorecard out multiple times a week, checking and seeing where they are on the various 5 to 15 items that are on the scorecard, and adjusting their calendars accordingly.
Right. How often do you see an all green. I say all green because the softwares that I use, they if it's on track, it's it's green.
Sure,
if it's off track, it's red.
Right.
How often are you seeing all green scorecards?
Not very often.
Yeah. Would you say that 80% of them are green? Like, I'm just trying to get just an understanding.
I think most of my clients are probably 50 to 75% green, because if you're all green, that begs the question of, well, what are you putting, like slam dunk activities on here? I mean, what are we doing here? Okay.
I have that question all the time, Harlan.
This gotta be a stretch. Okay. We don't want, like Alex Freitag says in ProfitWorks, we don't want the rubber band to snap, but we want to put tension on it. So it can work for us, right? We don't want to break it, but we want it to work for us. So it's the same thing with the scorecard. And
I feel like I tell folks that they and particularly leadership team members, and down the stream, down to some of the department levels, understandably, people want to be on track, right? That's their way of feeling comfortable in the business. It's their way of getting positive affirmation that they're being successful. And I agree. It's like we should celebrate things being green, but to your point, we should also push the needle a little bit. That's why I asked you earlier. I'm going to encourage your scorecard to be off, because that means we're doing something different and we're trying and we're measuring and we're checking the results of what we're doing. So an all green scorecard to me sometimes is a fail, right? Like you're not, and to tell someone who's punching in their metrics and getting a green output that they're failing is a hard thing to say. So we find ourselves saying it in a little different way, which is, I think we need to readjust this measurement. Is it something we're tracking? Are we going to do something with the change that produces? If it turns red, what are we going to do? The goal for the scorecard for me is to create change, positive change. Right. So I love that you said 50 to 60% of your clients are seeing a red scorecard, because that means they're dynamic and they're measuring something. But it does take a certain sense of maturity in business and maturity as an individual to be comfortable with seeing the red numbers.
Absolutely. So that ties into a couple things. One of them is, if you have a corporate or a bureaucratic mindset, it won't allow you to do that. You have to have an entrepreneurial frame of mind, which allows you to do that. And if you're, quote unquote, you think you failed or you lost, as long as you're winning or learning, you're doing well.
Right.
Okay.
That's exactly right.
So whatever that is, I mean, you just look back over your life and you'll see that many times in the most adversity, what came out of that was the best things, because of the lessons that you learned, and then you applied those, and boom. It's like, for years, everybody says you don't make your real money on the straightaway, you make it on the curve, right?
Yeah, that's so true.
So,
such a great,
let's
great
let's
saying.
go there and let's apply that to the scorecard, and let's just keep working that thing. And the other thing is too, though, you do have to build, for those of you in the crowd who might be Patrick Lencioni fans, you do have to be working that trust pyramid. You have to have a healthy environment with vulnerability-based trust, where people are open and honest, and we're not shooting the messenger here. We're not lashing anybody out because they didn't make their number. On the other hand, we're fixing it.
That's exactly right.
We might be red this week or next week or whatever. Now, scorecards shouldn't be blips. We're looking for trends here.
Sure.
Right? So, we're looking for 3 or 4 or 5 weeks and it's going the wrong direction. We need to fix that.
Right. Well said. Well, you clued on something earlier, and I would be remiss if I didn't take a full swing at that softball, which is around people and bringing people in. So one of my favorite things to kind of glean out of implementers is that you get to see companies before, during, and after specific types of employees. Like, right, I think about your session room and how often you have somebody coming into the business that's new to the leadership team. Give me some, what's some of your hardest things about working with people? Like, what is the hard, like, are your managing people. Give me an example of some things that you see that are most challenging for entrepreneurial teams or visionaries to struggle with when it comes to people.
Okay, so I've got a whole bunch of answers for that. Okay, but I think the most fun one is actually maybe not exactly answering the question you asked.
I love it. All right.
But it's visionaries thinking that they're integrators. So the founder, the head of the company, the Harlan, so to speak, where I'm just a hopeless visionary leader, not a manager.
Right.
Okay. And I think I can run my company.
Yeah.
Okay. And I've done it for like 10, 15 years.
Right. Right.
And looking back on that after I finally got an integrator or an operating officer in there that actually knew and loved to do that work, which I didn't like. Right.
Right.
To see the difference in the results.
Yeah.
I mean, we really started making money when I got out of that chair.
When you, So are you encouraging of your, I mean, again, you work in small to mid-sized companies under 100 employees.
Well,
I'm guessing.
I say many of them are. I do have some that are over 300 employees as well, but yes. Go ahead.
So are you finding them having integrators in some capacity, or is there a promotion by tenure or by default into that seat? And how have you seen the impact of an integrator, true integrator, in some of those businesses?
What happens is that in the beginning, the founder of the company did everything. They washed the dishes, they cleaned the toilets, they purchased, they sold, they did whatever they do. So then gradually over time, a lot of these jobs go out to other people, easy enough to get rid of, right? And then some sacred cows come along and they're not quite as anxious to get rid of those. For some, it might be they decide they want to stay in selling. They decide they want to have full control over the marketing. But in a lot of cases, they think that they're, for some reason, the only person in the world that could run that company. And unfortunately, when they're running the company, they're taking themselves away from the things that they really do the best that only they could do.
Right.
Which is that visionary culture, leadership position.
And growth and focused on forward. And no, I see it so often, Harlan, and by the way, I think we're all guilty to a certain extent that letting go of the vine is a very hard thing to do. And it's something that takes time and patience and reassurance. And that's the beauty of coming in with a fractional, is that a lot of times when people don't understand what they need, don't know what they need, but they need something else, we're a natural transition to come in and help them figure that out. And the fractional integrator visionary relationship is one that's truly unique, because I'm hired to come in and say what needs to be said in a respectful, kind, and courteous way, not necessarily what the visionary wants to hear. I always say, if you have the answers, you don't need me to help you figure them out. You've got them, go do it. But if you need a challenge and someone to see it from an opposite angle, then potentially bring in a fractional and see what it's like to date somebody without the long-term commitment and me as a fractional trying to sell you on the fact that I'm here long-term. It's quite the opposite. My job is to replace myself in some capacity once we find that right person. So I think allowing a visionary to get out of the integrator seat and showing them what it's like to have someone that they can trust to run it is a truly, unlock. It's a huge opportunity.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's fun. Let's see. What else can we talk about? So most of your clients have integrators, or is someone in the seat?
Well, so that the way you phrased that was perfect. Yes, almost all of them now do have integrators, but some of those integrators are just sitting in the seat. The visionary is still pulling all the strings, and the integrator is almost functioning as maybe an operating head of operations or a high-powered executive secretary.
Yeah, administrative, right.
Right.
So what do you do in those scenarios when you see a client that's, struggling in the fact that their integrator is they put a name in that seat because Harlan told them to when they were doing the accountability chart. And they believe that they need that person, but they're truly not the right person in the right seat because of one reason. How do you approach that?
Well, I have a lot of advantages because I'm old. I've been through all this stuff, right? I'm really, truly, my heart is to help.
Right.
Okay. And the way I can help is to make sure that I share the truth.
Right.
Okay. Once again, Patrick Lencioni, it needs to be the kind truth, and I can say it with a smile on my face.
Right.
And I can pretty much get away with murder. Like
Yep.
you, I don't live there. I'm not a W-2 employee,
I
right?
don't.
They
and
can
I'm
fire
not going to
me.
sit. Yeah. And by the way, like I said, lead with your heart and be good to
Yeah.
the business and the people.
Tell 'em.
And most times that means saying something that's uncomfortable.
Yeah. So, and then the other way to do that is, I'm not just making this up. I'm thinking about you in this deal. Wouldn't you rather be? And I just paint that picture for them.
Right.
And they always go, oh, yeah. Because the stuff they love to do, they know what that is, but they haven't thought about it enough.
Yeah.
Go take a clarity break, figure it out.
Exactly. You and I have a friend in common, a client in common, and I told this particular guy at one point. I said, I think you need to get out of the office. I think you need to close that door and walk out and go play golf. Go be in the community. Let this business do what it's doing. You've got the right leadership team. Go be the visionary. Trust the process. Trust but verify, check in, and just go be the visionary and see what happens. And you know what, Harlan? They go out, they take a minute, and all of a sudden they come back and they're their best self in their seat because they've got that clarity. They're not focused on things that someone else has handled. And by the way, the scorecard on all those things are in line. Okay, go be the visionary. So I think it's good to get to show that person what they should be doing or what they can be doing. And I use the accountability chart a whole lot when it comes to like having those conversations because in the platform, it's an easy button to push. It's always a good segment. It's a good visual. It's got the core responsibilities there. And if I can say to you, you're living in this seat, not this seat, then we can see the difference in responsibilities and it becomes really clear what they should be doing. And it's a nice tool to reference.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, what else? Any other things that you want to touch base on? Anything that you think is that the listeners would enjoy from your 40 plus years of experience and 53 years of marriage?
Yeah. Well, the marriage thing is still one day
It's a whole
at a time.
different deal, man. I'm working on 19 years myself. And to think about another 33 years, it's like, whoa. But good for you guys.
You've probably got the toughest years behind you.
We've made it this far.
Yeah.
I got these
Congratulations.
kids and this family that keep me on my toes. And so
that's awesome.
Any closing thoughts you got?
Your core values really matter.
Yeah.
It's the first thing on the VTO for a reason.
Right. Well, while you teed that up, I'm going to ask you this. How often are you referencing those? Referencing the core values in terms of as a tool for the entire company?
Well, I encourage my clients to be doing something active with the VTO or with the core values every day. That should be conversational. You should be tying behaviors to core values all the time. Whenever you're complimenting somebody, I say, hey, this is the one place where, it's not that you don't ever say something negative and tie it to a core value, because you do, but boy, don't let somebody do something awesome that fits perfectly in with one of your core values. Don't ever waste that. Always make a deal of that. Always. So it's every day. But certainly the EOS system is set up for the annual meetings, the quarterly meetings at the leadership team level, the all company meetings on a quarterly basis, the departmental meetings. The core values should be brought up there. And then, of course, it's built into the quarterly conversations your people should be They should be living into these core values. This isn't something we just memorize. There's nothing wrong with memorizing. There's nothing wrong with putting it on the wall. All of that stuff's good, but it's insufficient. You've got to live it.
I have to tell you, I'm cheating. I'm literally in the background while we're having this recording.
Yeah.
And I'm messaging one of my clients who's having a challenge with one of his employees on the leadership team. Literally, this morning, I had a call with him. And he said, I want to have a conversation with him. What do you recommend? I immediately said, frame the conversation in terms of you, not him. I'm looking at this. I'm not doing this for you. I'm not helping you. By the way, knowing that that's not necessarily the case, it's just a diffusing way to have a conversation with someone. So when you said that, I said regarding so-and-so, I'd suggest looking back at the core values today during your one-on-one. I think it'll help you have additional conversation points. And it's a non-alarming way to reference some conversations. Like, hey, here's a core value that I think we're struggling with, blah, blah, blah. And it's a disarming way to have a conversation like our quarterly check-in. So thank you for bringing up core values and that nugget, because it certainly helped me remind him to use those, but it also signals me that I need to be referencing those as I'm facilitating our meetings. I need to be using core values more to spur conversations and facilitate change and make sure that people are living by them on a daily basis. So thank you, Harlan, for bringing up the core values as something that we should be referencing on a daily, if not weekly basis with each one of the people in the business.
Certainly.
Well, this has been awesome having you, Harlan. I really, really appreciate it. And obviously, if you know of any clients in Central Illinois looking for fractional integrators, I'm your guy. And if I come across any opportunities for businesses in your area that are looking to grow, I'll certainly connect them with the man himself.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you. Thank you,
Thanks
Matt.
for joining us today on the Scalability Code, and we'll talk to you soon, sir.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Scalability Code. If you made it this far, please follow the show on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Let's get out of the show together. We'll see you next time on the Scalability Code.